And it is no good. He missed it. Are you kidding me? The season can't end like that.
Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
Some goofball in a hat and a red shirt. Now he takes off the shirt. He's running down the middle by the 50. He's at the 30. He's bare-chested and banging his chest. Now he runs the opposite way. He runs to the 50. He runs to the 40. The guy is drunk, but there he goes. The 20. They're chasing him. They're not going to get him. Waving his arms. Bare-chested. Somebody stop that man.
A return to form for the program? We go back to the old school days where there's just one show a week? Just this week, I'm afraid. For those of you that are wondering, welcome to the show, otherwise known as NETMA. I am your host, Tyler Falk. Glad to have you here on a Wednesday evening edition, the only edition of the program this week, due to me being ill yesterday and, well, this week, and we'll get to that toward the end of the show. Thank you all for your well wishes yesterday. Scarface once said, "Don't get high off your own supply." Tyler says, "Don't eat fish at a burger joint." So take those words to heart. So thank all of you who reached out to me, wishing me well, and I'm back. Still not 100%, but I'm better. I'm better than yesterday, so that's all we can hope for, and we'll just continue to get better from there. A lot of things happened over the weekend. Over the long weekend. Happy Juneteenth. Back on Monday. Free agency closes tomorrow. Just before the SFLm Championship on Friday. And the draft on Saturday and Sunday. So there's a lot going on, including after our show, you can go over to Axel Raven's Twitch channel and catch the SFLm Prospect Bowl. Where the best of the best voted by you, the fans and viewers, to maybe just a little Pro Bowl in a way, or an all-star game in a way, but it's for all the minor leaguers who have made, in the eyes of the viewing public, the biggest contributions in the league, on the field. You name it, they're in there. A whole host and a lot of good talent to be watching and scouting maybe one last time for some of these folks before they join the ranks of the pros. So let's get into a free agency recap. Final one before we finally tally up the draft order, the draft picks for each team, all of that coming down the wire as we speak. So let's go ahead and get to the draft, or get to the free agents. And so the biggest news coming out of free agency, of course, was Motor City. They not only signed a whole host, 3/5 of an offensive line, with 2 more maybe on their way. Maybe next season. They have 2 of them that will not take part in official team training, but they will be a part of matters maybe further down the line, but they'll be a part of the team and still getting to know the playbook this season. But 3 offensive linemen joined the fray officially and will take part in full team activities. That is the McMillan. There's going to be a quintet. Hopefully I said that right. Quintet of McMillans. Maybe a quintet a cappella group should start there. Anywho, you've got Bill, Gil, and Phil all on the roster. Those folks will go ahead and get their training started. Maybe the 2 other gentlemen will join them shortly. But this is the most interesting coming out of all of that is the fact that Motor City signed a brand new quarterback. Not Tom Pepper or anyone else, but they sign Ibrahim. I'm going to probably butcher this name, so I apologize in advance. Kraida. Ibrahim Kraida, We'll have to get the official pronunciation. Hopefully I got that one right. But Ibrahim is a brand new name. For those that don't know, Ibrahim is going to be an owner player. I do not remember which one of those gentlemen are going to, who it falls under. Maybe some of you folks can help me out with that, but I do know that it's an owner player, which for a lot of folks has ruffled some feathers. It goes by the way of telling the minor league QBs, at least on the surface, that we're going to put a quarterback out there that hasn't seen the field yet. Untried, untested, maybe unsure. It's a very peculiar pick. A very peculiar route to go with. It looks like on the surface, has been pointed out by a few different folks, that it looks like Motor City are sandbagging. Now, I can tell you that I don't think that's the case. That I think that Motor City might have a plan. We'll get to that here in just a second. But the message that it sends on the surface to anyone outside the organization that does not have a controlling instance of the team, is not on the field as a player. It shows them that they are not good enough. That their efforts should be completely discounted and completely forgotten about. That's the message on the surface it's sending. However, I preface this all with however. I said I think I know what's going on, and here's what I'm thinking. I think we're going to see, if not the first, one of the first 2 quarterback systems. That's the way it looks to me, because if you look into the finer details of the quarterbacks, Ibrahim already, as it stands, is not anywhere close to the level currently on an SFL roster. And now we know that the Motor City franchise has had troubles retaining quarterbacks. Johnny Pickler, Cairo Martinez, and most recently, Christian Brown. For one reason or another, they have not been able to keep a quarterback in the system. So why do I think it's a 2-system quarterback? Well, I think that every team dreams of being competitive and winning a championship. We saw it last season with a 2-back system, a true 2-back system, that Louisiana was able to make something happen. That Louisiana had the opportunity and had the ability to find a way to put an effective offense on the field, make the playoffs, get all the way to the semifinals. I think if Motor City wants to be competitive, and I really do think they are going to try and be competitive this year, they have no choice but to find another quarterback in the draft. If they do not find a quarterback in the draft, no matter how good else they draft, if they don't find a second quarterback, I'm immediately calling it now. They are my 2-10 prediction. And I honestly think that's probably where we're going to end up without a better quarterback in their system. Now, I really do like having a second quarterback in the system, especially for a team that cannot, or has shown to not be able to keep one under center for a longer period of time. I think it is a good idea to develop Ibrahim in the background rather than making him your frontline guy. Ibrahim will not be a starting quarterback, will not develop into a starting quarterback in one season. He will not be an SFL caliber starting quarterback in 2 seasons. And so the fact of the matter is that Motor City has to go with a 2-quarterback system. That is the only way I think they stay competitive, the only way I think they have a shot of even being competitive in that new division. That's how it is. Because if you even look at Ibrahim right now and compare him to the minor league, Chad Moore, who came in through the middle of the season for Lexington, is already a better quarterback than Ibrahim. They would stand a much better chance with drafting Chad Moore as their starting quarterback rather than giving Ibrahim the ball under center for all 44 minutes. And TSK puts it beautifully. There is a hell of a lot of good quarterbacks in the draft. I would even draft Cyrus Jive type attack. And there, as you can see there, on the lower end of the spectrum in terms of value. And so if Motor City almost saying St. Louis, it's going to be hard, kind of like saying the Oakland Raiders, but they're Las Vegas Raiders. But Motor City can have better success with Patak and Jive rather than Ibrahim. It's just a matter of time before we see their pick. Which means there are currently 5 open slots for quarterbacks, not 4. So who do I think is going to come off the board? I think we will finally see Xander Moon come off the board. He has put in the work over the past 4 seasons. He needs a team. He's been very vocal about his opinions in chat, in social media, about how he feels about the 2-way contract player. He's been very vocal. He's going to go to a team that is going to be very vocal. I have a hunch he's going to Seattle. I have a very good hunch he's going to Seattle. Because if there's anything I know about that ownership group in Seattle, is that Kai is very, very opinionated. In a good way. I think Kai and Moon would work really well together. I think they'll have some really good discussions, and maybe they've got something going on. Maybe they've had conversations we don't know about. But I think Xander Moon comes off the board. I think Trellis Blanton comes off the board. I think Slider comes off the board. I think we see. Oh, this is tough. I think we'll see Tack come off the board, and maybe Struthers come off the board. Now, it's not a mention again. Sipes had a really good season. I think those are the 5 that are definitely coming off the board. I'm not saying to particularly who, but I think those 5 are a good pick. We'll touch on more of that here in just a moment as we take another quick look. Again, Motor City, again, that's the biggest thing. 3 offensive contracted linemen. That's one of the McMillans, or the Panda as they're calling them, in the official press release released earlier today, has brought on the McMillan quintuplets. Right? Again, getting my numbers right. Anywho, 5 offensive linemen, 3 contracted, 3 just playing in the wings. It'll be really interesting to see what they do with those formations. I actually kind of wished that Motor City would have contracted them a little bit differently. I like having a contracted center. I'm thinking they might have wanted to go with 2 tackles rather than just bodying up on the left-hand side. Because that's where Bill and Phil are going to be playing. They're going to be on that left side. It's going to be once those guys get going, probably later in the season, that we see it all the time, especially this past All-Star game. Great game, by the way. Both Ethan West played well. But we saw it with the opening run, right? What can good blocking do for a team? That is what we saw. That is what we got in the All-Star game. So I think we will see more and more teams go with offensive linemen if Motor City can develop those gentlemen to the standard they need to be. That being said, that is where everything stands. As far as the draft order goes, that is not currently up to date. The SFLm tab, that's not currently up to date. I'll be working on that as before the draft to get that all up to date. But this is where we all stand in terms of signings and everything. Of course, mentioned earlier, Arizona, Baltimore finished up their offseason a little early. They will not be participating in the draft. There's a couple teams that might join them. Carolina with 22, have not heard if they ever look into the draft, or maybe they have signed, or maybe they're looking to sign someone before the end of festivities tomorrow. Let's see here. Let's see. Charleston, DC, Denver, and Florida all have a couple signings to do. Florida just with one. Denver have a lot of signings to do. That's pretty interesting. Now that I take a look at it, Denver have, I got to do math, 8 signings to do, and they have to do a couple of them before tomorrow if they're doing any more in free agency. Tomorrow, again, is the official end of free agency. Back to, I got to find all teams again. Back to where we all stand right now with less than 24 hours or just over 24 hours to go in the offseason, or right before the draft, I should say. Fort Worth, Houston, Jacksonville, Las Vegas got some work to do. Most of them might take it through the draft. Jacksonville, one of the teams that need a quarterback. London, Lone Star, Los Angeles, Louisiana, working on a couple of things as well. All of them with about 1 or 2 picks left to go between them. Mexico City through Queens City. All of them have about 5-6 picks to go. And on to San Diego through Vancouver. San Diego, probably the team that's going to have the most picks this season. There's just been some rumors that haven't really been able to court a whole lot of folks in the offseason. In fact, have yet to sign any free agents this season. Same thing with Sioux Falls. But they've gotten a few more names than the Mavericks. On to the expansion teams. The biggest news coming out of Seattle. I believe it's the first time we've seen Catherine Horrell since season 16 when she was in Fort Worth. That's the newest free agent signing in a long time. That is the longest time that we've seen, one of the longest time we've seen Catherine in a while, so it's good to have her back in the SFL. Correct me if I'm wrong if she was here in season 17 and left early. I don't think that was the case. But that is where everybody stands in terms of the free agency signings. Now, if I can just find, there we go. So it's back to the minor league. And what I want to really talk about now is more or less a semi-mock draft. It's going to be a long show tonight because it's going to be the only show of the week. We're going to probably go 45 minutes to an hour, including a couple interviews. I've got one interview lined up with Jay Viper coming up here in about 10 minutes, along with Mike All, who might stop by toward the tail end of the program. If you want to jump in on the conversation on the final program before the SFLm Championship and the SFL Rookie Draft this weekend, please go ahead and jump in to the NETMA server, link to which is down below in the description, and jump into the green room. I'll take you here into the studio as it becomes available and as we get to those interviews. So if you want to jump in, head to the NETMA green room in the NETMA server located. That link is linked down below in the description. Okay, so back to the minor leaguers. We talked a little bit about where folks stand in terms of maybe a mock draft, maybe where some of these folks stand. So let's just go through some folks that I think are going to go. We'll go position by position. We've already talked about quarterbacks. We've already talked about a couple of teams that are going to need quarterbacks. Let's go ahead and touch on. Let's go ahead and touch on tailback, shouldn't we? If we can type, I should say. Maybe. Let's try and figure out the website, right? Live here on screen now, shouldn't we? Let's see. SFLm roster. And what am I doing wrong here? Anywho, let's try that, shall we? Okay, so we get a full. I know what it's doing. I know what we're doing. Wrong. We'll go back to running backs here in a second. Of course, you would think that Toronto Rivera would probably be the first pick. A lot of folks are thinking that Chuck Stellar might come off the board. We'll actually take a look at a few mock drafts here in a second. Chuck Stellar and John McCool, I think, are a couple of two. I think McCool's got a team already, but I know Stellar is probably coming off the board fairly early. It's been quite a synopsis. He's been in a couple of chats already. So now, if I remember, I think we go with running back. There we go. Marcus Duncan has really impressed me over the season. Of course, Randy Squarebush and Jay-Z Bacon are both contracted to professional teams. Logan Lee's done pretty well this season. I'd expect his name to come off the board toward the second or third round. Probably looking at about 4.5 rounds, maybe here in the SFL draft. But I think Lee, Duncan, and Pierce, I think, all stand to come off the board in the rookie draft. A couple other positions I want to get to. Again, not really doing a full-on mock draft myself because I am, of course, one of the I'm assistant general manager over in Louisiana, so I'm not going to go ahead and give you guys all my secrets for what I think is going on. But some names I want to hear come off the board. I think DeQueen's coming off the board. I think that's pretty self-explanatory there. Very well liked in the well liked in the community already. I think Cooper and Viper are both coming off the board, along with De Niro. He had a really solid game last week, or excuse me, earlier this week for the Navs. Even though in the loss, he had some really nice clutch catches. Anyone looking for a slot receiver, I think, would do well to take De Niro off the board. And one more position I want to get to. Again, I'm more of an offensive guy. There's a lot of good players on defense, and I'll talk about that more here in just a second. As far as tight ends go, you can't go wrong with Brian Murphy's over in Denver. If I believe, let's see. I think probably see Lachlan Martin and Bakagalupi. Oh, I said that wrong. Anywho. Craig Westlake has really made a name for himself late on in the season. He only just joined in week 8. We'll go back and talk about that. All right, someone wants to talk about free safeties here for a second. And as an agent for a certain free safety, otherwise known as Mike Ryan, I have a pretty good affinity for a lot of these free safeties. Jerry DeGon has signed already with Fort Worth, if I don't believe. Travis Arthur, I think, sounds familiar. Frosty, I think, might be a new player. Doesn't really tell you when you look at the SFLm whether or not they have a two-way contract here in the portal. So we have to try and make sure that I'm talking about the right player. So if we're looking at Jack Snook, of course, for Albuquerque, probably they're looking at a good shot at a ship. They'll play Ottawa in 2 days' time in Arizona. Arizona hosts yet another SFLm championship. I think the front runner there is Nuke and Frosty. If Frosty doesn't already have a professional contract, but maybe another name to keep an eye on. I'd probably say Rick Evans. No, Rick Evans over in Lincoln. He's on a 2-way contract. So there we go. Spicoli? Well, keep being active, my friend. I think you might find a team later on in the draft. Probably a late round picked. Maybe mid round. You seem to be a bit more active more than I think about it now. So maybe a mid-round pick. And for those of you that are wondering what kind, Frosty's not a two-way? Perfect. Thank you, Adam. Well, maybe Adam's going and picking him for Indianapolis now. Maybe that's some draft insight for everybody. Anywho, back to some draft analysis. Your players' value matters. A lot of folks, I've said it a couple of times, it's been said on a couple different shows, but I'm just going to reiterate. The SFL draft is very much so a person fit first to a lot of teams. If you're active, if you show you're a good person, if you show you are a contributor, or this is a really crucial bit, right? There's some folks out there that don't actively talk about themselves and don't actively chat in Gen Chat. It's the folks who you talk to privately, because that's probably the best way to talk to them. Those folks also can go pretty early on. And I want to take you through the mock draft. This was done by Garrison Blue over, I guess now in Lone Star, but this was his first mock draft. The mock drafts would come out pretty late just because of how jam-packed this offseason has been and the flurry of transactions that have been made. This is Garrison Blue's or Frank Wade's first mock draft. Might be the only mock draft we see, maybe until after the SFL championships. There only might be 2 versions of this mock. But one thing I want to talk about this mock draft is the first 5 picks. The previous first 5 picks in season 18 and 17 have set the tone for how the draft is going to work. Now, let me explain that just a little bit. In season 18, the first 5 picks were heavily favored on the offense. Douglas Brown, running back, Johnny Reno, QB, GP Wells, running back, Declan O'Rourke, linebacker, and Randy Squarebush, running back. For the majority of that first round, we saw a huge host. A majority of that first round was dominated by the offensive side of the ball. As comparison to season 17 saw Leon Thunderman, Potty, Axel Raven, David Ware, and Tommy Utah. A majority of defensive players and a kicker going number 2 overall. So the real story of this draft is going to be those first 5 picks. If we see a bunch of defensive players come off the board first, expect those defensive linemen to fly off the board. Defensive linemen are always a hot commodity, depending on those first 5 picks. Or at least that's the trend. If we see a good mix in that first 5 picks, maybe 2 offensive, 2 defensive, and a special teams, kind of like if we see maybe Christian Pierce go to Portland instead, if it were to look something more like that, we would probably see a more balanced first round. The first 5 picks made by the 4 expansion teams and Portland will dictate how fast each side of the ball comes off the board. As far as this mock draft and as far as all mock drafts go, that's how it's not very appropriate to say that's a wrong pick, that's a bad pick, because it's based on need, it's based on the personality, and it's based on how their cap is, right? So I think a person who did a really good job would be Ethan Muslin. However, he does have, and some eagle-eyed people around the league did see that he had Xander Moon going to Sioux Falls at pick 95. And as we all know, Julian Tyree probably not leaving Sioux Falls anytime soon. And after he made his mock draft, Julian Tyree signs, and that's just how it goes. So it's a little bit bittersweet for Ethan, but that's what we get used to here in the SFL. That's the Sparrows sign just a little bit too late, and we have to try and figure out whether or not Sioux Falls likes to play in mind games because they seem to love the mind games. So you can make a mock draft. I'm choosing not to because I'm not going to give away Louisiana's draft strategy, what I hope would happen, because there's a lot of good players in the minor league. There always is. We're going to get with how the SFL operates one day, because it's a little bit different. It's a little bit different than the NFL. Personal lives get involved. The SFL is more personable and personal than I think the NFL because of how small it is. Because we like to say we are growing. We are growing nationally, and we'll be on international TV this season with ESTV. We're still more of a small town atmosphere. It will take some time for us to get bigger. ESTV can help with that. Next Level Sports can help with that. Our different new partners, Rare Drop, and so on and so forth. And everyone who I've missed, APM Music, they're all going to help. They're all going to help us get bigger. We're going to get more and more sponsors. We're going to grow. But for now, it's about people. And I think the SFL will always stay true to the people. I think that's where we're going. It's just going to be something that people coming into the league will have to get used to. It's a little different. The SFL is different, and it's probably not changing anytime soon. So that is the full scope of the SFLm and a couple of the mock drafts. Let's go ahead and, while I'm waiting for Jay to maybe jump on here in just a moment. But let's go ahead and get to maybe the SFLm championship. And again, if you want to join the program and jump on and maybe talk a little bit about the SFLm, off-season, the draft, or season 19, go ahead and jump into the NETMA server. You can head to the green room in the server, and we can get you here on air to talk live with everyone here at home. So, SFLm championship. It is Albuquerque and Ottawa, the 3 and 4 seeds, pulling off upsets. San Jose fell. It didn't seem like they had their mojo the last 2 weeks. They played Albuquerque, and they fell to Albuquerque pretty hard. They tried fixing a couple of things versus Ottawa. Ottawa played really well. Albuquerque's on now a 6-game winning streak. Ottawa's now got a couple of good wins under the belt after being a little shaky in the beginning of the season, but they're finding their form at just the right time. I think it's going to be an exciting championship game. I got to call the last championship game held in Arizona when it was Albuquerque versus Birmingham, the old Birmingham full squad. And now it's going to be Jay Hayden, and I believe Ethan Muslin is calling that game as well. So Jay Hayden and Ethan Muslin will call the 5th SFLm championship. Good luck to those gentlemen. I think they've got a good call in their hands. I think we got a good game on our hands as well. The last game between Albuquerque and Ottawa came down to a last-minute field goal made by Mickey Malolo, who's going to be I believe is going to be in the Prospect Bowl tonight on Axel Raven's channel. But again, really good guy. Reached out to him a couple of times. He's reached out to me more than once, which is always a good thing. But I think we're in for another good game. I think Ottawa and Albuquerque will give us a championship to not soon forget. I think that game is going to be a little bit more high scoring than it was in week 4, the first win of Albuquerque's season. And so I'm thinking 24-22, the final score in that one. I'm picking Albuquerque to win it. They've had a really good defense during this winning streak. I don't see that changing anytime soon. I think Ottawa will force a couple of errors, maybe a safety to get it to that 22 mark. But I think it's going to be I think it's a fun game. If you're not doing anything Friday night, go support the SFLm and go watch the SFLm championship game on Friday. Ottawa Albuquerque should be a good one. Expecting a few people to jump on, expecting Mike All to be a part of it sometime soon, expecting to be joined by Jay Viper at some point tonight. But let's go ahead and get to maybe a couple predictions as I work on maybe contacting Jay Viper. Anywho. First pick of the draft. The first pick of the draft, there's a couple of speculation there. Chuck Steller from Garrison Blue. He's got Bryant James going first overall. But in both mock drafts, they do have Mickey Malello going first overall. That's all due to having Malello having a really good rep already with the ownership group over in Minnesota, of course, being on Fights and Insights and being called Mickey a few times. Anywho, back to a couple of either predictions. I think Motor City will go with a 2-quarterback system. I was talking about that earlier in the show. I don't know which one they're going to go with. If I had to give maybe a prediction of who Motor City go with, I think it'll be a later round draft pick. I think it's either going to be Tack or Sipe. Tack for more of the cap space, Sipe for more of the for the more value. I think those are their two options they'll probably go with. As far as that's concerned, I think that's all the predictions about it. That predictions will come more than likely next week before the last week before we head to Vegas and head to the SFL convention and week 1. Anywho, back to a couple of other news and highlights. Again, coming up after the show at 7 p.m. Eastern, the SFLm Prospect Bowl hosted on Fights and Insights will be hosted by Axel Raven and Company. Those folks will be in, should be a pretty good game. It's been broadcasted, been announced over on League Social in the SFL official Discord. Happening, again, Prospect Bowl happening 7 o'clock at Fights and Insights as we go ahead and get going. All right, so with that being said, and without Jay able to make it on tonight, I was hoping for it to go a little longer. I wanted to cover a few more things with Jay, see how he's doing, and maybe Mike All will join us here in just a second. I know he's running a little late as well. But what do we got? What are some predictions you guys have for the championship game? What are your predictions for the draft? Who's the draft winners? Who the draft losers are? Go ahead and give us a few predictions. Questions can be asked in the NETMA server Discord, in the show questions channel, in the question here. All right, let's go ahead and get some folks in here. I think we've got both Jay and Mike in the studio. Let's see if we can get Jay on the phone first. Jay, you there, friend?
Yes, I am. Hello.
Hey, Jay. Hey, good to have you on. How are you doing?
Oh, doing great.
Okay. As far as your career in the minor league, I know you guys with the San Jose, your season came to an abrupt end a couple nights ago. How did you guys in the locker room take that?
Well, we all took it as it's not obviously the way we wanted it to end, but it happens, and we all took it as this is our last kind of hurrah as one big family, and we took it in strides and said, well, we had a great season anyway, And even though it's not where we wanted it to be, we all kind of looked at this is still a big stepping stone for all of our careers. So we're kind of looking at it as like go into the league next rather than looking at it as like a loss itself. We looked at it as more of a stepping stone and a learning lesson because you got to learn how to take those losses sometimes. And this is a early on learning experience for all of us. So.
Absolutely. So now as your attention now fully turns to the draft, how has the offseason been like? How many folks have been reaching out to you? And maybe you can tell us a little bit about yourself as well, just in case they haven't been reaching out to you. But knowing, Amanda, your stature here in the league, you probably had a few teams come knocking on your door.
Yeah, just a few. I can't put a number on it because I can't remember. There's a lot, though. I will say it's pretty awesome seeing how much kind of everybody's been outreaching for it, and it's been awesome. But I'm 20, to say a little bit about me. I'm from Colorado and big football fan and absolutely love doing this stuff. So, like, I've been enjoying the hell out of it. And, like, I'm very excited to be picked up with the team and continue doing what I want to do and being a wide receiver for whatever team ends up picking me up.
Okay, I got to ask a question because you're a football fan in Colorado. Bluffs or Horns?
I gotta go with the Buffs. the Buffs are who I usually root for in those matchups. So
there we go. All right. So as far as the league's concerned, how have you enjoyed your time here in the minor league, and what excites you most about making that jump to the pros?
The minor leagues were just a different place. Obviously, I haven't ever been to the big leagues, but like I think it was more of like a family dynamic, and that's what like really excited me about it all is like all of us hitting up each other, talking to each other during the games. We'd all be in the voice chat together, so it was just like a very family dynamic, and it just felt awesome because I played sports growing up, so like it felt like the real team, and that's what I didn't expect. Like I didn't know what to expect going in the SFL, and I'm hoping going into the leagues it's the same way. But I'm very excited to kind of make that jump and be able to do the career in the big leagues and kind of hang out with a couple of my buddies that have been in the big leagues for a little bit. So it'll be a lot of fun to be in there.
And Jay, you got the tap on the shoulder to become part of the West out of the SFLm prospect pool. You're suited up with Sipe, Tack, Bacon, Lee, Rivera, Bandit, Bakagalupi. Again, I'm probably messing I should get the pronunciation right. Christian.
I can't pronounce it either, so don't worry.
I'm going to have to learn his name because it sounds like he might be getting drafted. So I'm going to have to learn how to pronounce the name and pronounce it effectively. So Christian, I apologize for butchering your name now twice live on air. But you also got T to Queen, yourself alongside TT Crystal, Lottie Lou, Sean Molinex is on your offense, Phoebe Collins, Frank Burks, and Mickey Malello is also part of the offense and special teams. So when you line up against those guys, you're going up against some really tough opposition on the West. It's a jam-packed host of the best of the SFLm. I think this is now the second time that Axel has done this, and I think this is a really good showcase for the SFLm.
Yeah, I love it, and I'm honored to be picked for that. So, like, it's an honor to do it, and I'm gonna have a lot of fun with it because this is obviously my first and like only time I can do this. So I'm gonna enjoy the hell out of it. So I'm excited to line up against the best of the best, and hopefully I can show that I deserve to be there and not just kind of like got lucky to be there.
All right, Jay, one final question. It's about the Prospect Bowl. Even though the score won't matter at the end of the day, I want a score prediction from you from the East and the West.
I think for us, this is tough. Why somebody's always got to put me on the spot, either you or AJ. But we're going. I think it'll be a tight contested game. I'm going 14-7. We win it.
14-7. You guys win. A low scoring ball game, but that just goes to show the caliber of the defenses on both sides of the football. So
yeah, I mean, you look at what San Jose went through. We were shut down defensively, and that was some of the best. So I imagine you put everybody in there, it's going to be a defensive game.
Absolutely. Jay, you're welcome to stick around to the end of the show before we sign off as I welcome in General Manager of the Canton Classics, Mike All joins the program. Mike, how we doing?
Hi there, buddy. Glad to be here with you.
It's always good to see. Where is Mike All in this part of his house tonight?
I'm actually in the dining room at the moment. I can go somewhere else if you want, though. You want me in the bathroom?
Uh,
I'll make this one of those shows.
Axis Live jokes, I love it. And
Yeah.
we'll have to get you and everyone over from Axis Live that was on there at one point. Maybe we get Charlie Boletsky on here at some point. Maybe we do some bullet points. We got to get the whole gang back together at some point over here.
Yeah.
Maybe on NETMA or a standalone show. But
Sure,
no, it's good to hear your voice, Mike. As far as the offseason's gone for you guys over in Canton, I know Kendra was over there along with Adam and Christian over in Canton in real life at the NFL Hall of Fame supporting fathers on Father's Day. And they had a little event going on over there. Maybe tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it was a great time. They set up a booth with a monitor showing our games and talked to a lot of people about the SFL. Got to meet a lot of really cool people, not just the NFL stars and Hall of Famers, but the local people of Canton as well. And it was a really good time had by all. Well, not this all, unfortunately. I was at a wedding DJing, so I couldn't be there. But it was a good time had by everybody else but this all. Um, and it was a good time. They got the team got a tour of the stadium and a tour of the hall itself, and met a lot of really cool people. Kendra got to be out on the football field and take a picture with David Tyree, which, as you may remember, was the helmet catch to beat Boston. I should say New England. Sorry, in the Super Bowl. That's something Kendra is going to be practicing for this season to try and do to some other teams. And yeah, there was a lot of good contacts made, and there will be a little bit more on that later.
Okay. I know you guys have been really busy in the offseason getting all your free agents together, bringing in the likes of Chris Komisak. Robert Johnson comes in from Los Angeles. You bring in Gary Clem, maybe an underrated linebacker from Portland. You bring in Jay Rock, Bob Funk, also from Portland, and one of the better safeties, again, up and coming, and really has a great story to him. You bring in Evan Lacey from Lone Star as well. You guys have brought in a really good core group of guys and gals into your locker room.
Yeah, not only did I bring in great players on the field, but I brought in great people into the locker room, and this is I mean, it's only been a short time that we've all been together, but it's really gelled into a nice family environment here, and we all love each other. It's been a great time. There's so many laughs that we're having in our locker room already. And I love every one of these guys.
Okay.
And I got really lucky to get some real solid talent to come over and be a part of this from the ground floor up. And it's big. It's more than I could have hoped for, but it's everything I've ever wanted.
Absolutely. Now, Mike, we were talking earlier in the show, or not earlier in the show. We were talking, we'll get to that point in a second. We were talking earlier in the show, or I was talking earlier in the show, about the decision for Motor City to go with a brand new quarterback, or at least sign one at the moment. I feel they're going with a two-back system when they bring in Ibrahim Kraida. Do you have a similar hunch, or is that going to maybe be a little different from how you see things over in Canton?
I understand why they're doing it. But it's got to be rough to start with that. I would assume that they would bring in at least a one season backup to help them out. But they definitely need to go strong in their running game, because it looks like that's where they're putting all their chips in. And they better find a strong running back, something like our guy Logan Lee from Lincoln. Because they're gonna need a lot of help behind that offensive line. And I mean, I'm not gonna say that I'm not looking forward to that game on the schedule and what we can't do against them. But it is. I mean, it's definitely out of the box thinking the way they're going, and I hope eventually it pays off for them.
Absolutely. All right. We were talking personally, you and me, about Canton maybe coming up with a couple of things, you coming up with a couple of things. Well, Mike, you ready?
Well, you know what? Let me start with two other things first. Tyler, publicly, I just want to thank you for all the hard work you put in Lincoln this season. It was a great time watching you work your magic on the offense, and I couldn't be prouder of all the work you put in and what you did for our team. So thank you for that, Tyler.
Thank you.
I also want to give you one other thing. Bacha Galupi.
Bachagalupe. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. So yeah, I do have a couple of things I want to give you as an exclusive on the show here.
Okay.
And I would have loved to have given you more, but I'm only going to give you a little bit. Just everybody know to stay tuned for the rest of the night. Cam, if you want to pull up on your camera the signings page, I'm going to give you a couple.
Okay, we will get to that here in just a moment. All right, we've got the signings page up and running. I'm ready to hit the refresh button.
All right, so I'm gonna give you the most obvious one, since you happen to be talking to the gentleman right now. You want to go ahead and refresh that?
Okay. Oh, of course. Mike
Of
Allsides.
That's all you really need right there, isn't it, Tyler?
That's it.
Yeah. So that is the final piece of the puzzle to our defensive line right there. Opposite end of Chris Porter, like we played that first season of the minors in Lincoln, and I'm super proud to be on the line with him again.
Absolutely.
I have another one for you. So if you want to go ahead and bring it up.
Cameron Curtis is the official
Yes.
quarterback.
Officially now, Cam is our quarterback, and he's going to bring a lot of excitement to the field when he's out there. And these may have been the most obvious things, but I wanted to give you a little something on your live show, Tyler. I have one surprise for you.
Okay.
So let me just hit the button here and go ahead and refresh.
Girth Lord.
Yes,
oh,
sir.
He's very girthy, and he's playing center too. All right, I love the name. Okay, tell me a little bit about Lord.
So he just got to the league and reached out to him and had some good talks with him, and he's brand new. Like he just signed up this week, Tyler.
Okay.
And we had some good talks with him, our leadership group and him, and we really enjoy talking to him. And so he did have one progression this week in the minors, but we are taking that away and signing him at base copper as an official street free agent, which is legal by the rules. I just want to make sure everybody understands I'm not bending the rules in any way. But he is going to be our first offensive lineman in the Canton Classics organization. And he's really excited to come out there and throw some blocks and protect the man we just spoke about, Cameron Curtis.
Okay. That sounds like a whole lot of fun. Mike, I appreciate you sharing all of that with us. You got anything else for me tonight? Anything you want to say? Maybe an SFLm championship prediction?
You know, I love Swole, and I like the guys in Ottawa. But I'm gonna go with Albuquerque because maybe we're going through the whole rotation again where Madison won and then Albuquerque won and then Salt Lake City, which is now Lincoln, won. So that's what I'm rooting for to get us that championship next season, sir.
There we go. We'll be working hard for that. And so it is Albuquerque with the win. That's two people picking Albuquerque. I want to bring back in Jay Viper one last time, real quick, sir. Now as an official third party to the championship game, Jay, do you have an official SFLm championship prediction?
Oh, well, that's tough. Being booted out and everything. But, I'm thinking Albuquerque. I think I'm with some people that I've been seeing with Albuquerque. I think Albuquerque's got it.
Really good team. Two really good teams in the championship. Looking forward to that game Friday evening. So, Mike, Jay, appreciate you guys being on. You guys have been awesome. Jay and Mike, we'll talk some other time. And your guys are always welcome back on the show. Yeah, anytime.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Have a
thanks,
good one.
Tyler.
Anytime, gentlemen. All right, and that is just about going to do it for the show tonight and for the week. there will be no show until next Tuesday as I go back home for a long weekend. My dad just retired from the United States Air Force after 35 years of service. So huge shout out to my dad as he enjoys retirement for the rest of his life. Doesn't have to work another day if he chooses not to. So thank you to my dad for his service, and I look forward to spending some time with family over the next weekend. And so that means there will be no show until next Tuesday, folks. And so enjoy the Prospect Bowl tonight here in just under 5 minutes over on Axel Raven's Twitch channel. Enjoy the SFLm championship game, and good luck to all the rookies in the draft this weekend. We'll touch on all of that and more next weekend, along with previewing the season 19 and week 1 in Las Vegas at the HyperX Arena at the Luxor Hotel. Until then, everybody, it's been awesome. We'll see you next week. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night.